I want somebody to just respond to this. I found this graph, and somebody put together this. It's based on the 2019 census, right? What you have in the purple is the U.S. population, okay? The population that's white, the population that's Hispanic, population that's black, that's Asian, and that's Native American. They looked at commercials from during the Super Bowl, and they looked at the people. And when they were large crowd, like who's represented in the commercials. So when you look at these in scenes with large crowds, they only chose the dominant actors, the ones that were really prominent, okay? So now, this is what we have. So this is the white population. Here's the percentage of people in the Super Bowl ads who were white. So there were fewer than we would expect given the population. Many fewer Hispanics, and way more black people represented in the Super Bowl than our black people in the population. So does anyone have a thought on that?
I guess maybe like my first question is like, is it the goal of the Super Bowl commercials to be like representing people who they think are watching it? Like, is that, so is like, maybe my thought is like, they're putting certain people in it because they think those people are probably watching it. Like that's what I'm sort of guessing.
That's what you're thinking.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes up. Like, maybe they're trying to represent people who are actually watching the game.
Or who they think are watching the game.
Okay, that's cool.
I was always surprised when I would see statistics like this because the majority of people that play in the NFL and like a lot of the more like football and the NBA and stuff like that, there's a lot more like diverse, like as in race in that aspect. But then the people that perform, you see like stuff like this where it's like we're not really like represented in that place, but it's a lot of us that play.
So okay, so this you could say really in some ways represents the players for sure, right? Because this is saying, hey, like, you know, it's like 40% or so of all the people acting in the commercials are black, and at least that many players are black, but probably more.
Right, but it's just still, but not just with black. Like, I know I'm black, but not just with black people. Like, look at the Asian and Native Americans and, you know, Hispanics. Like, they're not, like, not in the NFL. They do play.
And they're not being represented.
And they're not being represented, exactly.
Yeah, so if this was World Cup, if this was, you know, like soccer or football, it would be a little different.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo off of that just a little bit. I'm going to try to give a little bit of some business perspective in there. I mean, we all know that for the Super Bowl commercials, companies will pay, you know, millions of dollars just to get like a time slot. But the NFL actually has really strict guidelines on what they will choose to air and what they will choose not to during their runtime. And a lot of that has to do with, let's say a company is like, oh, we're trying to change the face of this. They need to have some sort of representation of what like the NFL is. And I'm not sure if you guys know, but 70% of the NFL is African American. However, when it comes to people who are leading these sponsorship deals and you see their names on articles and videos, magazines, etc., that is predominantly white, so that would be the model that they would follow. And then when it comes down to it, like you guys are completely right with like the other factors that happen with like Hispanic people being more into like soccer or football, non-American.
Like everyone said, like lack of representation. What came to my mind is like with award shows, they had huge backlash for the lack of representation with African Americans. So maybe to prevent that backlash as well.
So you think like, so you think that maybe there's like everyone is trying to do some kind of showing like, hey, we represent.
To keep it PC and like everyone happy. So like to prevent the negativity of like award shows. I think the Emmys and Oscars had the lack of representation. So something like that to maybe even cover themselves, but also make everyone happy who's watching the football.
You have all these different commercials, and each commercial has like 3 or 4 actors, let's say. And then, but each commercial feels like, oh my God, we have to have a black actor. Well, now you're really disproportionately, you know, representing black people because it's like, well, everyone has to show that. Like, you can't do a commercial and have only white actors in this world, right? Especially if you only get one shot. And so, yeah, but we can overlook Asians and Hispanics in this case.
I think what's happening here is over the past couple of years, there's been, more pushes for diversity and representation. And I think in the U.S., what's getting the most attention for the past couple of years has been, issues that black people face. There's a movement called Black Lives Matter, not really Hispanic Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter. And so when, companies that want to advertise are putting stuff together, they want to catch the least flack. So they're like, all right, who's looking for representation? They see black people, so they put more black people in the advertisements, and then they're like, okay, we have representation, give me your money now.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're being pandered to as a black guy? Given what he's saying, which is probably very much part of it, do you feel like in a way like you're being pandered to?
To be completely honest, I feel like we see it a lot during Black History Month. And we see it a lot during like other times which like black culture is pretty prominent. You see a lot of companies going into like, oh, we support black, and then like come April Black History Month is February, right? Come March, like nothing matters. So I think like to key in on, I think we are being pandered to, but to answer the question you originally asked, I think representation is largely based off of what a company thinks is going to be most profitable financially. So we see a lot of representation of whites because they're most likely to spend their money on commercials that they see, such as cars, new other things. And we see a lot of representation of black on certain issues and subjects because blacks are more likely to spend their money on like new movies or new shows, statistically. So that's where the representation in my idea comes from.
I mean, you said, okay, you have Black History Month, right? That's when everybody really does it in. But I don't know. I see so much representation of black and brown people. Everybody in their, their company. If you're going to show the employees of your company, you're going to make sure you reach in and find a black person, a brown person, a woman, someone who's disabled, whatever. But that's the easy part. It's what comes after that that's much more the difficult part. It's like, well, what are we actually doing? There's a conversation at Penn State and at universities all across the United States that we do not have enough instructors or people in positions of power, or whatever the case is, who are black and brown. Okay, so in the liberal arts and in the social sciences, there's increasing gender equity and parity. So when I started here at Penn State, I think we had one woman in the entire department, one professor. And now, that number has moved to close to half, right? But there's another conversation about race. We're talking about this constantly. We need more black and brown professors. There's like an endless critique of the administration and of people in power for not hiring more black and brown professors. And we should be hiring more black and brown professors. And why aren't we? And it's racism. And if I had a I don't know, like $10 for every time in my 30 years here that I've heard that Penn State is a racist institution because we don't hire enough people, I'd be rich and I could retire right now. So you presumably, most professors would be people who have PhD degrees. And I'm just looking at, in here, it's just black PhDs and Hispanic PhDs that were awarded in 2019. These are all fields. This isn't just liberal arts or social sciences or whatever. So if we look at black PhDs awarded, 4.5%, the 2,512 represents 4.5% of all PhDs that were awarded in the United States that year. Of the 55,000 were people who identified as black. 12% of the U.S. population is black. And Hispanic, 5.1%, and 19% of the U.S. population in 2019 is black. Okay? So now return to the question of Penn State should be hiring more professors who are black and Hispanic. Interpret that statement from the lens of this. of these data? What do you see?
That the pool of people applying to be professors at the school might be smaller than the group of white people with PhDs applying.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. So the group applying is going to be a lot smaller than the percentage of people in the population.
I don't really think the school itself is racist. I think it's the racist ideologies, like of the people here. And more so, I don't think, like the girl up there said, I think it's more so the people aren't applying, not because it's a racist institution. I think people aren't applying to be in the middle of Pennsylvania. Like, it's a boring ass place. Excuse my French, but like, it's the middle of Pennsylvania. How many black people do you really see in State College? Like, let's be very honest. It's cold up here. Like, people have other opportunities to go elsewhere. I don't really think people aren't coming here because Penn State is racist. I think it's just there's better opportunities to go. Like, I would rather be in Miami right now, like at Florida, in hot weather than be in a mountainous area with cold. And like, I see very little representation. And like, you also have to think like, schools, your children are going to be in schools with people that don't look like them. Like, I would rather put my kids in schools with like, more diverse, in a more diverse area. But
But if only 4% of the PhDs awarded are black people, let's just say, stick with black people, right? And if you look around and you say like, hey, what percentage of Penn State professors are black? And then we say, yeah, it's somewhere around like 4%, let's say, right? I don't know what it is, but my guess is if we include the Commonwealth campus and so on, my guess is it's about 4%. And if we say, so what people say is it's only 4%. And look, the number of black people in the U.S. it's over 12%. So you need to show as an institution that you're not racist. You need to hire more black professors. Because only by doing so can you show us that you're not racist, right?
I don't think, like, if you hire, just because I hire a black person, that doesn't mean I'm not racist.
No, I got that. Okay, I got that. Okay, no, I got that. Okay, but, so, and I'm in agreement with that, obviously. But this is the argument. Where are the black professors? And there should be more black professors. And so the question with those numbers is like, so where are the black professors? Or the Hispanic professors?
I think there are black professors. There needs to be more. I think it's just the classes that you're taking. They're not making up like those majority classes because I think, like I said, they would rather be like elsewhere. The black professors aren't applying because they would rather be elsewhere. But like I know like I had black professors here, but I took AFAM classes. Like I took specific classes, and it's just like, the black professors would rather be in AFAM classes, or it's just maybe because like maybe Penn State doesn't have a lot of black professors because they're just not marketing, like they're not putting job opportunities out there, like, or people are just like not, they just don't want to apply.
But also they're not there. If only 4.5% of PhDs
that's not
awarded.
that's not a big number compared to like,
dude, it's a hugely small number, but it's one that we forget. And this is the point here, right? It's like, look, if we put an application out and on average, like 100 people apply and only 4 of them are black, let's say, right? And we'd want 12 of them to be black because that would be a representation of the population, right? Look, in an ideal world, you want your groups to be largely represented you want a certain representation, right? Like it would be lovely to have to represent what the United States is. Like it's a cool opportunity. That's what makes this country really fascinating is we have people from so many different parts of the world. So it's like, okay, let's represent those parts of the world. That makes it the United States, right? That makes it what it is. But here, it's like, well, but we're only going to get 4 of the 100. And then we got to make sure, now we're only hiring 1 person. So what are the chances that one of the 4 is going to be the top?